Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In supporting the humble address, I'd like to echo the remarks made by the Prime Minister and, on behalf of my own party, to come together today in appreciation of a life well lived, a life of service and of duty, a life that shaped modern Britain and provided much-needed stability to our national story. My thoughts, first and foremost, are with Her Majesty the Queen and the royal family. Prince Philip was a man of many titles: Duke of Edinburgh, Lord High Admiral, a Royal Commander, Baron of Greenwich. But above all, he was a much-loved father, grandfather and great-grandfather. To Her Majesty the Queen, he was not only her beloved husband, he was, in her words, her strength and stay for 7 decades. So it's right that today this House and the country comes together to pay tribute not just to a man, but to the virtues he personified, and to his ceaseless optimism about the country Britain can be and what the British people can achieve. The life of Prince Philip was extraordinary, lived in a century on fast forward, a time that saw World War, a Cold War, the fall of empire, 20 prime ministers, the invention of the television, the internet, artificial intelligence, and technology so extraordinary it might have seemed to a lesser person as if from another world. Throughout that time, the monarchy has been the one institution for which the faith of the British people has never faltered. And as we've seen once again in recent days, the royal family has a connection with the British people that runs as deep today as it did when Philip Mountbatten married the then Princess Elizabeth in 1947. That is not by chance. It reflects the quiet virtues, the discipline and the sacrifices we commemorate today. My own connection to the Duke of Edinburgh began long before I entered this place. Like millions of other children, aged 14, I started the Duke of Edinburgh Award Scheme, the DofE as we called it. My first activity was to volunteer at a local mental health hospital, where, unbeknown to me at the time, my late granddad would later be admitted. And my final activity was wandering around Dartmoor in a small team with a compass and a map in the pouring rain, frantically trying to find our way. Mr. Speaker, if that doesn't prepare you for coming into politics, nothing will. And in recent days, I've been struck by the countless stories of lives turned around by the DofE Awards. Young people who found their confidence and found their way. This was summed up by a 14-year-old girl who said, on passing her Bronze Award, that she felt, I can do anything now. The DofE now covers 130 countries and has helped millions of people around the world. It is perhaps the best symbol of the Duke's global legacy. He was, of course, also patron to more than 800 charities and organisations. He was the first president of the World Wildlife Fund. He was the patron of the British Heart Foundation. He was president of BAFTA, and he was Chancellor of the Universities of Cambridge, Edinburgh, Salford and Wales. He carried out, as has already been said, staggering more than 22,000 solo engagements and countless others alongside Her Majesty the Queen. The Duke will also be remembered for his unstinting support of our armed forces. It was in Dartmouth in 1940 that he graduated as a naval cadet and, as the Prime Minister has described, went on to a distinguished naval career. Today, Mr. Speaker, the British Armed Forces mourn one of their greatest champions. The Duke was a funny, engaging, warm and loving man. He loved to paint. His work has been described characteristically as totally direct, no hanging about, strong colours, vigorous brushstrokes. He was also a great lover of political cartoons, and not something the Prime Minister and I can say that often. Although I saw a cartoon this weekend that I think captured this moment of national and personal loss perfectly. It depicted Her Majesty, dressed in black, looking back at her shadow and seeing the Duke standing there, as ever at her side, attentive and holding her hand. Mr. Speaker, Britain will not be the same in his absence. For most of us, there's never been a time when the Duke of Edinburgh was not present. At every stage of our national story for the last 7 decades, he's been there, a symbol of the nation we hope to be at our best, a source of stability, a rock. Her Majesty once said, "Grief is the price we pay for love." The Duke loved this country, and Britain loved him in return. That is why we grieve today. But we must also celebrate him. A life lived in strong and vigorous brushstrokes, like his painting. And we offer up this tribute to the Duke of Edinburgh for a lifetime of public service, the Gold Award. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I now call the Father of the House, Sir Peter Bottomley.